Hello, everybody. We hope it's a lot of everybody's. This is the Elderly Brothers podcast number 14. I think I just said, right?
You said 14, yeah.
Yeah, I'm Larry. We've decided we're going to state our credentials at the beginning of these podcasts so people will know that we're legit. I'm 82 and Ardy is
89. And we know we don't look it, so that's why we have to say it. We look at certainly in our 50s, I would say.
yeah, easily maybe late 40s,
We late 40s, yeah.
very
Uh,
late.
do you remember when never trust anybody over 30 was the thing?
No,
Well, the hippies and the yippies.
didn't, and I was hippie generation, I believe,
Well,
right?
you must not have studied it closely enough because never trust anybody over 30 was a big deal.
And so you're pre-hippie though, right?
I'm pre-hippie.
Yeah.
I would have been a hippie, maybe. I don't know. But I'm pre-hippie, so I came in on the end of that.
I
Uh
don't, yeah, there weren't any hippies around, I think, when you were entering your 20s.
in my no, my pre-hippie time, there were no hippies. That was the thing.
Yeah. So, okay. Also, I wanted to say that today is May 2nd. Yeah, May 2nd, 2025.
That establishes us where very well. I was thinking about in talking about hippies, which was not all that long ago. I've been pondering, and why? Don't ask why. I've been pondering what how people uh, in before clocks, before any of that stuff, how people knew when to go somewhere. I have an appointment at 10 o'clock at the Coliseum. How do I know it's 10 o'clock? Or even, I mean, I know I can look at the sun, but maybe it's cloudy.
It's cloudy, and I don't even know when sundials came in.
No, I don't either. But they had to have one. Not everybody had one.
Doubtful,
It
yeah.
had to be sunny and you had to run out in the yard and look at it. It just, I just don't know. And why do I care? I'm not sure about that either, except it's kind of fascinating to me that, come on over for dinner at 7. Okay, we'll be there. And they get there at uh, what they think is 7 and it's 11 or 9 or 2 or whatever the hell it is.
Yeah, well, I
And
guess.
your foods, you haven't prepared your foods yet. Your dinner isn't ready and your wine is getting isn't cold yet, isn't chilled.
And um, they weren't aware. I don't think they didn't know, except it was light and it was dark.
Well, and there was no electricity, and oh, they had candles. Yeah, I'm sure they had candles. But when it was dark, you didn't do anything, and
When
when it was
when are
light, you did stuff.
when are we talking about though? When
When
candles?
when were candles?
Yeah.
Oh, a long time ago. I mean, that's old stuff. Candles, and they came with along with fire, not maybe a little after fire.
Something like a candle, I guess.
Yeah, they lit stuff. They lit a log, which was like a candle.
But so yeah, it's kind of hard to even imagine that they didn't have time at all. I don't think, other than it got light, it got dark, and when it was dark, he couldn't do anything because he couldn't see anything until candles. And
So,
then
so if you lived in the far north, where it's dark for 6 months, what happens?
well, an interesting thing, I don't know if I mentioned this to you, but I knew a sociologist that did his field work in the far north, above the Arctic Circle, and he said that, and it was like 3 months of dark. He said people after a couple of weeks of it being dark, people just were up whenever they were up. There wasn't any, you know, when there was light and dark, people went to bed more or less the same time, got up more or less the same time. When it's constantly dark, it just goes random. And he more or less lost his mind because he couldn't observe the culture because it was awake all 24 hours a day.
On the other hand, the rest of the year it's light all the time.
Yeah, but I guess I don't know. But he said it in day, when it was light, it did get dark. It didn't, I don't think it was light all the time. Maybe there are places where it's like that, right?
Yeah, Norway, Sweden, Denmark. 3 o'clock
So,
in the morning, you can read the newspaper outside.
I
You
think,
adapt. I mean, obviously, people adapted. They were able to function. They were able to kill each other and stuff like that.
go fishing,
Yeah, fish. Yeah,
fish and hunt in
had
the
to be,
in the light.
of course, you had to be near the water to fish. Not everybody was near the water.
And when it's dark all the time, the water is probably frozen anyway. So
Yeah, up there, up northy north, it is sure.
you got a problem there.
All
So
right. Well, I would like to talk. You mentioned this before. Uh, how we neither one of us can write anymore.
yeah, and I'm also an artist and a painter, and I have no small motor control, I think, anymore. So it's freed me up a lot in that I can't control it, so I just go with it, and I think my work's gotten a lot looser.
Your artistic work or your work overall.
Probably overall, but definitely my artistic work.
Well, I still seem to have enough coordination to type pretty fast and hit the right keys, but don't ask me to write my name because it looks just a scrawl. I can still print some, but you were into calligraphy. I mean, and
Yeah.
yeah, and you can't callig anymore, right?
No, nowhere near that. Nowhere near that. And I can type, um, but in my painting, I'm not into straight lines, except that I can use tape to mask things off. And that's
Well,
the only way.
it's yeah, I mean, we just lose coordination. It's part of all of this trimmery stuff that goes on, and the whole thing.
Yeah, but there must be some kind of vitamins you could take.
You think maybe castor oil will do it.
Something. I mean, they got vitamins for everything.
Yeah, huge doses of vitamin A may do it.
And we also had kind of related to this conversation was the fact that zinc is good for you and lead is not. And why?
Well, this body thing that we've got here is really complicated. I mean, when you think about it, it is unbelievable. A flea lands on your finger, on your hand, and you feel it, and it weighs nothing. It weighs minus. A piece of lint falls on you, and you know it.
Well, lint, I can't usually tell, but my wife takes care of that.
Well, I did a book 100 years ago with a doctor who just said that the body is miraculous, and it's a mystery how it came together. It's a mystery how it's developed. He was just in awe, and he was a doctor in awe
Yeah.
of the body.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they know a lot more about it than anybody else. But it's even, you could just take one item like sphincters, how valuable those are. And somebody, they said, well, how do we keep stuff from leaking out? We'll make a sphincter.
Yeah. Well, every piece of the body is the same way. I
Yeah.
mean, if you don't have a thumb, you're an ape.
But also, who came up with that name for sphincter?
Who came up with any names for things?
Yeah, but sphincter.
Yeah,
What?
I know. Well, how about hockey puck? Who came up with the name puck?
Well, I
It's
could
not
see.
a puck. It's
Well,
a
what else?
disc,
What else would you call it?
a hard disc.
But that's too many words.
I know, but that's my point. Somebody had to come up with this stuff. Any word, any odd thing, anything at all, really.
Right.
Why is this an eye? Why is it a toe? They could have called it a toe.
They could have, and it wouldn't have made any difference.
No, it'd still be something.
As long as
You got dirtied or something.
you have to have consensus.
Yeah.
So, if we all agreed, well, I'm not going to go there. But if we all agreed on renaming a large body of water, we'd have to agree.
Well, that's true. Or just call it water.
A big water.
And where did you get water from?
Okay, yeah.
Development of language. I mean, it's remarkable too. There's so many unknowns left.
And how we got here, nobody knew about time. And then
No,
all of a sudden they did.
they wanted to know for some reason. They
Well,
must have
because
wanted to know, but for all those centuries, nobody cared what time it was. And then somebody said, "Hey, we got to know what time." And probably Leonardo, somebody like that. He did.
or when they started having dinner parties, you had to know
Yeah,
so you wouldn't be late.
right. Or you send your child over to knock on their hut.
So this has not gone anywhere that we discussed before we started it.
No, it's not.
I know you wanted to talk about your caregiver.
Well, I think I'll save that for next time because
Okay.
it's a fairly long subject. But wait a minute, I dropped the list. Uh, no, we covered it. We talked about time and writing, and then we got off on all that other stuff about the body and the naming of things, how things got their name.
But I think we need to discuss that further, not now necessarily.
No, I think that's a big topic.
It's a very rich subject.
But I think maybe we need an expert, a language expert who can tell us.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, who came up with sphincter? Was it a bunch of early doctors? They said this thing closes and opens, we got to call it something.
Yeah, they could call it a closer and an opener.
They could, but then it was all, I think it's efficiency. You're trying to get like keywords.
Maybe. Maybe. Total mystery, though, as far as
And sphincters are like a whole class of things.
they are.
Yeah, there's lots of things that are sphincters.
Didn't know that.
I think in a way, you could consider like a carburetor on a car to be a sphincter. Although I think maybe the operation's different. That's just a thing that closes, and a sphincter it tightens.
Well, there's the flaps that aren't that go up and down, and they work on their own. You don't have to do anything about them. You don't even have to think about them.
The flaps on what?
In your heart, the valves in your heart.
Oh, valves. Yeah, valves.
Valve.
How about that?
There's a word. We'll spell that VALUE. How's that sound?
I don't think it works.
I don't even think that's the way it's spelled.
It isn't.
There's another V in there, right?
VAL
VUE.
VUE?
Yeah.
Okay. It's like the word gauge.
Jerry, how do you spell valve?
Valve. VALVE.
No, you.
Huh?
No, you.
No, you're right. Simple word.
Ask her about gauge.
Gauge, gasket. We could go forever. Every word had to come from somewhere.
So we got to look it up. I want to, if there's a way to find out who came up with the word sphincter.
Well, that seems to be your word for the day.
It's, I seem to be obsessing on it. So I think maybe we should draw this to a close.
I do too. We're sort of babbling, although I think the topic is interesting and needs further discussion and further research.
And if anybody has anything to contribute to this conversation, please do so.
Yeah.
So we'll know you're out there.
And don't forget, we're at Elderly Brothers, common spelling,
-US.
-US. I had to stop because there was an airplane landing in my yard.
So anyway, it's been lovely. I love you, my brother, still.
Love you, my brother.
And we'll
We'll
talk.
talk soon.
We will.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.